And of course, I don't have my glasses on. All right. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and, of course, video game industries. And I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We're joined today with a very talented writer, has a successful Kickstarter campaign, a comic creator, a wonderful person, and was supposed to be on the show about 4 years ago, but he decided to go to a fanciful trip somewhere where I probably haven't been to. But we are joined today by, of course, Austin Hamblin. How are you doing today, Austin?
I am doing great. And, you attacked me for going on a trip. I went to Chicago. We did some cool stuff.
Hey, Chicago's a great city.
Oh, so it was a place you have been to then?
Yeah, many times. But I forgot to mention the comic that we're talking about, and that is, of course, The Adventures of Punk and Rock. But, for those that have never read it or haven't had a chance to read it as of yet, tell us what it's all about.
So The Adventures of Punk and Rock kind of springs from my love of indie comics and underground comics. So like Prison Pit, Arsenic Lullaby, stuff by like Jeff Lemire. Each issue is a self-contained story. Follows the two title characters, Punk, Little Rock, two screw-up space bounty hunters who will do anything for money. The third main character is the narrator, who not only narrates the comic, but interacts with Punk, Little Rock, and you, the reader, and he only narrates the comic because he needs to pay alimony to his ex-wife, with whom he has 27 children.
Well, someone's been busy, and I hate to see what his college bill is going to be.
Ooh. Well, this is a direct quote from him, is that the damn kids think they need to eat every day.
Food, overrated.
It's a really fun thing. It's not I don't know. It's not one of those things that's you could read any issue in any order since they're self-contained and get same out of it. And kind of now is like, what's something super cool that we haven't done yet? Like the second issue, there's a professional wrestling tag team tournament because myself and the artist Scott Twells are big pro wrestling fans. So we decided, and it's a humor, of course, you couldn't tell, and there's a lot of jokes in there, and then there's a lot of inside jokes for if you're a wrestling fan. One in there is like Punk and Rock. Almost sounds like real wrestling names, like homage to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and CM Punk. Medieval slugs. There's a lot of wordplay. It's a super weird thing, but super fun at the same time. The artist kind of he doesn't have a mainstream style, but that does not mean it's not good. It's just not something you'd see at Marvel or DC, but it really, really fits the tone of the story, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, and then that's something I noticed about it was the artwork itself, because you're right, it does harken back to the indie and the underground comics. I mean, that's their style, almost like a Robert Crumb type artwork in essence, just without the line work.
Oh, absolutely. And like that's this, like, I'm a fan of all comics. Like I'm not just like, I only read Marvel or DC. I read manga, I read indie comics, I read self-published books, like anything that's a comic I can read. But I have a special love for those stuff like that. Like Robert Crumb's work, I'm a big fan of. I really love Harvey Pekar, American Splendor, Will Eisner, a lot of his old stuff I really like A Contract with God, The Dreamer. Spirit's okay for me, but it's kind of his other stuff that I just really in love with.
Well, from a writing standpoint, then, helps if I switch cameras. from a writing standpoint, then, obviously Pekar and Crumb and all of those amazing creators, really focused on topics of the time and everything like that. You're also focusing on your passions for what you love too, wrestling and everything else.
Yeah, trying to fit it. That's the cool thing about, my main thing that I got from reading comics my whole life is that I always hated that I would have to go and buy, if I wanted the main story, I had to buy these 10 tie-in stories. But if you read the old Fantastic Four stuff, like the original run by Lee and Kirby, you could read one issue and that was the whole story. Like they might touch on it later, but they'll sum that up in like the first page. You could just read it, and it was so fun. It wasn't, and especially when books don't ship on time when you're reading monthly books, and it's like, oh crap, what happened? It's been a while since I've read the last issue. I mean, like the Goon and Skull Kickers are really good examples of books that do that, and I love both of those. Where they and the cool thing about Skull Kickers is they have like 5 or 6 issue arcs. Each issue is self-contained, but it's all leading up to the big finale at the end of the arc, which I don't know how he does that. Jim Zub is such a good writer.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. He's just his style in general is just incredible. But there are a lot of amazing writers that are finally getting known nowadays. I mean, those that follow their comics and those that understand it, but everyone focuses on the artwork. But the true passion or the true art, quote unquote, no pun intended, is the characters, the writing, and the collaboration, of course, between writer and artist.
It's super important, and a lot of people like they think, oh yeah, like writers and artists, like it's an equal thing. You can't have, like, especially in comics, you can't have one without the other. When I first started out, the best piece of advice that someone gave me was, I had a pro. It was actually Phil Hester, and he read one of my scripts, and he goes, draw it out. And I'm like, I can't draw it. He goes, no, just draw it out, like roughly, right? And then I did it, and I saw that like just a lot of what I wanted wouldn't work on a page, and I kept doing that for a while. And the more that you kind of dip into what the other person does, the more you understand, and the better, more well-rounded you become. So
what helps you as? Oh, sorry.
No,
there was a delay. Go ahead. No, go.
I don't even remember where I was at now.
you were storyboarding your stories, and it helped you see how you were pacing yourself.
Yeah, and one of the main things with that was sometimes I just, especially with action and stuff and like panel size, I used to, you think something will look, especially before you've ever had an actual comic created, you think all these things are going to work. You've got them down, you're like, I'll hand it off to this person. I'm not sure how it'll work, but they'll figure it out, which is a terrible mentality to have, by the way. If you can't figure out a way for it to work, you're basically passing the buck. You're like, here's what I want. Cool.
Yeah, famous phrase I've learned with fellow filmmakers is, we'll do it in post. Yeah, that works really well.
Dump it on somebody else. Ooh.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm just posting, and I think I forgot to promote the live show we're having right now too. So,
oh, people will come.
Yeah, hopefully. They'll come to see you more than anything. That's the main thing. But there was something I saw recently, was the penciler says the inker will do it. The inker says the storyboard artist will do it, and the storyboard artist says the main artist will finish it all. And the main artist goes, "What the fuck is going on?"
Oh, absolutely, and that's like it's funny because the job in comics that I feel has the worst deadline crunch is the colorist, because they're the last person on the chain. So if your penciler's behind, which then in turn makes your inker go behind, and then if it's already been solicited and they want it out by that date, and a lot of times it's just like they'll miss out on work because they'll try to get, or not try to, they will hire somebody. They'll be like, okay, well, you color these pages, and we're gonna have to hire, because there's been books where like they want it out on time, and there was the issue of the Hulk that was a few years ago, where it had like 5 different inkers and 6 different colors just so they get the book out on time, and it's like it was not cohesive when you read through it, because you could tell each different inker had a different style, and then all the colors didn't quite match because they weren't exactly the same color palettes that they were using. And it was like, I know you want to get it out on time, but I mean, dang, you're sacrificing some quality to do that.
Well, speaking of sacrifices, you just start. Well, actually, I think your Kickstarter is still going on, if I recall correctly.
Goes till the
Yeah.
31st.
Okay, and you're successfully funded. That's the main thing. That's the good thing. I, that's the most difficult things. But so speaking, go back to the question. Speaking of sacrifices, what have you had to sacrifice to make sure that this Kickstarter was well, not only was funded but was promoted as well?
So, oh man, that's funny because people have been telling me for a long time, oh, you need to launch Kickstarter, you need to launch Kickstarter, because I got my first thing published in 2012, and I was like, no, not until I'm ready, not until I'm ready, and I've literally been studying Kickstarter. Like I've been seeing what people do as prizes, how people promote things, what people like, what works, what doesn't work, and on top of that, I've been reading marketing books, not just for Kickstarter, but Facebook and marketing in general, as well as talking to different people who have done it. The main thing that I had set in place for when I started was I set up a marketing plan of, here's what I'm going to do, here's different things I'm going to do to promote all of this, and this being my first one, other than it being successful, what I've taken from it the most is I have learned so much from doing this.
Like what?
One of the main things I thought of that I learned was interesting was nobody cares. And let me elaborate on this before, because you're like, you have a successful Kickstarter. How can you say nobody cares? One of my close friends had done one, and he goes, it'll be interesting. He said, on the last day, you'll have people that after the Kickstarter is over, that you would have thought would have funded you in a heartbeat, that wouldn't have given any money. People that you thought would have never given any money could give a lot. And it's crazy to see. It was funny. I took a screenshot. Kickstarter sends you an email when it funds. And it's like, congratulations, you've done it. And I screenshot it and I posted it on my author page. And I was talking to my girlfriend, and it got like 30 some likes or whatever. And I said, 3 of the people that liked this gave money. And it's okay. I'm not saying this because I'm upset about it. It's cool. This is my dream. This isn't their dream. It's just that if you're going to launch one, be prepared. Be prepared to have friends and family. Just, a lot of people will like your art posts on Facebook, or, will tell you to keep following your dreams. But when it comes to giving money, even in the smallest amount, they might not even do it. So that's just something to be prepared for.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. I I recently went through a I produced 3 short films for my thesis for 4th year. So 3 other creators, directors, I produced them and they directed them, and so I put together a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo campaign specifically for a set amount. You got to admit, though, it drains you. I mean, yours was successfully funded, well in advance. Ours was funded with 12 hours to go.
Oh God, that would be heart-wrenching. I can't even imagine.
And it was a 2-month campaign too.
Ooh. Yeah, no, it is. The night before I launched, and I had a Facebook page, telling people, or like a Facebook event that invited people to. I was handing out flyers at work to people, like explaining what a Kickstarter was and all this. I got maybe an hour or 2 of sleep the night before, and then I went to work, and it didn't launch it until like 6 p.m. at night. But then I went to work till 2, and then I came home, and I was like super, super exhausted. I'm like, I gotta launch this thing. And then, of course, I wasn't able to sleep that night either. And it's a wild ride, but worth it.
Oh yeah, definitely worth it. I mean, now you're funded. Now it's a matter of getting the books created if they already haven't been created, and getting out to the people. What is the one thing that that some of the the perks that kind of really surprised you, and what are the ones that you figured, oh yeah, these will definitely go?
Okay, so the artist, I have a pledge for, and it's like limited to 15, but he'll do a custom character sketch, a piece of original artwork, any character you want, and it would be a full color thing, background. I think it's like 8x10. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna, people love original artwork, and we've had one person back that. And the other one that I did not expect people to do this was a T-shirt, because who the hell, for people who don't, it's an indie comic. Nobody's gonna want to wear a T-shirt of an indie comic. And people have been like, I've had people back for that, and then I've had people be like, so like about this shirt, and I'm like, what? Everybody wants a shirt now. Okay, it was not see that one coming.
Oh. The sorry, there's a bit of a delay. That's the reason why I'm holding off on asking anything. Plus noise. The with the comic itself, I mean, you've done 5 volumes, or 5 issues, I should say. They're all self-contained, like you said. You can start anywhere. When you first started pitching this concept, or at least writing out this concept, was there something that just really was nagging at you when you were writing that you thought, you know what, this has to go into a comic somehow? I don't know where it's going to go, but it has to go somewhere.
Yeah, actually, when this started, I had a premise written up, and I had worked with Scott. He was actually one of the first artists that I had ever worked with, and I sent it to him, and he's been doing comics a lot longer than I was. So I was pretty much a newbie at this point. And I said, do you mind looking it over? To give me some input on this premise, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, it's not quite there. It needs something. And I don't remember how I ended up when I'm like, narrator. The narrator just being like this snarky asshole that really doesn't want to be there. When people are like, what do you mean, like, he talks to the people? I'm like, have you seen George of the Jungle? If you've seen George of the Jungle, nobody dies in this movie. They just get really big boo-boos, and like he gets in fights with the characters. That is exactly what the narrator is, just turned up a little bit more, because this isn't a kids-oriented movie. And once we put that in, it just worked so much. It just worked so much better to have that in there. I never thought that it would have come this far. The idea was to do it self-contained, if we wanted to go back to it. And here we are, 5 issues, doing volume 1, and volume 1 is going to have a bunch of bonus stories in it too, and it's all getting colored, so it's going to be like it's going to be around 200 pages, give or take, with all that stuff in it. And then it's funny because we're kind of just like, after we get this done, we want to go on to start issue 6 to do some more.
Nice. With volume 6, and I'm guessing you're gonna do another 5-volume issue. I mean, it sounds like you must have enough material, obviously, for that. If not, I mean, the world's around you. You can pick stuff from.
Right. No. Yeah. It's funny because there was literally an issue that I've got half written that we were supposed to do for issue 2, and we're like, it's not that we didn't like it. We're just like, well, I don't think this is how we want to. This is the next one we want to do. And we've got a lot of things lined up. And the cool thing is sometimes Scott will just send me a design and be, or like a joke idea, and be like, hey, could we do something with this? And then that's like, ooh, it's sparks back and forth to get this fire going. And it's a horribly weird fire, but it keeps you warm.
Do you love the collaborative process? Is that something that drives you as a writer?
Absolutely. It's got to be the best part. When I think of like novelist, I think that would be super hard to do, and not necessarily the writing. I think if it's a different kind of mindset, but it's just something that can be done. But the thing that would be difficult about it was when I write a script, or I write a premise, send it to an artist, he sends back character design. It's like, whoa, awesome, cool, and it gets you, it juices you up. It's kind of like if you're in a like, okay, this is probably a terrible example, but like tennis. If you're a singles tennis player or you're a doubles tennis player, if you're a doubles, you've got the other person there being like, like, yeah, yeah, and you can keep tabs on each other. If it's funny because what Scott used to do, between the first and second issue, we just kind of had a lot of like nothing. It was on my end. I wasn't writing anything. He started just drawing pinups and posting them on Facebook and tagging me in it, and he did that like a couple of those every week for like a month, and then I'm like, I'll start working on another issue, and he goes, "Thank you."
What are the titles of your issues then, with volume 1 through 5?
Okay, so the first one is The Adventures of Punk and Rock, and that's just the first issue. Is issue 1. Issue 2 is the tag team tale of Punk and Rock. Issue 3, it's no title, but it was the original full color special. Before now they're getting all recolored, and there's 3 short stories in there. And my favorite story in there is one Scott did by himself, which is a silent story. There's no dialogue at all or sound. The story is that they're in a bar and a bug stings Punk, and he starts hallucinating. In color is what he sees, and in black and white is what is actually happening. So you get all this trippy, dippy artwork of him just tripping balls, and then it cuts back to reality. And that, honestly, and I had no part in that story. That was all him, and I got to say that is one of my favorites. It's probably my favorite story that has been done with Punk and Rock, because it's such a good idea. And he did 2 more silent stories for the graphic novel that I'm super, super excited for. Then issue 4, let's see here, which was the Medieval Slugs. And then issue 5 was Space Pirates.
Interesting. That's awesome. Actually, I'd definitely love to read it, because I saw the invite. And this is how I can support people. If I can't buy the products, I'd love to get them on the show to talk about it. And your passion for what you're doing, and it sounds like it's a fun read, a fun time, and I definitely see great things coming in the future, because realistically, you could just take any side of comedy that you want and just run with it.
And I appreciate that. That's the one thing. I mean, I was talking earlier about giving money, but seriously, a share, and like interview, like that's a big deal, and it helps. It shows support. And this especially more than giving money, because you can't deny that you know me and have talked to me now, because now this is a thing. This is out there on the internet. You can't lie about it.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what do you mean? It's a video. Come on.
Stunt double.
I'm hoping for some big things. This past year I had interned for Devil's Doing First Comics. So they used to publish G.I. Joe and Transformers, and at one time they had 2% of the comic market in North America, and it was cool. It's actually cool because Josh Blaylock, who runs that company, backed the Kickstarter, and I was like, holy crap. Like, it's not something he had to do at all. Having me on as intern was, big deal as it was, and helped me out. And I met him at a con after I started my internship in Kansas City, and he like bought me a beer too. And I'm like, this is not things he would have to do. I'm like, I'm probably one of the best treated interns out there.
Let's talk about that, though. Being an intern, being in the industry itself. I mean, you see things. You're there to learn. You're there to experience things. What did you take away from an internship? Well, first off, what did you do, and what did you take away from it?
So I'm located in Iowa, and they're based out of Chicago. So I did everything remotely, via Skype and stuff like that. I kind of did a whole mess of things. It wasn't the same every week. Some of it was internal schedule. Some of it was getting online sales stuff and tax information ready and putting preview pages up. But But honestly, I'm so glad I did it, because the behind the scenes stuff at a publisher is amazing. Especially when I made the internal schedules, when you find out like this is the date it has to be at the printer, and then the printer it's got to go to Diamond, and then like dealing with Diamond, like it, you just think oh yeah gets written, drawn, colored, cool, it's good to go. But there's so many steps in between that, and being behind on one of those steps messes things up so much, so much. That was one of the biggest things that I took away from it, and the people who work behind the scenes, whether in comics, whether it be marketing, uh, editors too, those are kind of the unsung heroes of comics, because they keep things going. They let people know about what's around. They keep and as much as everybody wants to be like, oh, nobody wants to help anybody out in comics. I find that so wrong. Um, no, I think what people is no, they take it as if somebody doesn't hand you a job, they don't help you. No, that I mean, this ain't nobody gonna hand you a job in any career. First off, but just people who like Phil Hester is one who's helped me. Eric Gapster, who works with them a lot too. Josh Blaylock was another, from Devil's Due. Just from small things like the internship. Uh, Doug Pez, I can't even say his name. He does the Arsenic Lullaby comics. He taught me how to sell stuff really good, as he had me help out his table one day. All these like little things, no, they didn't give me work. They weren't like, oh, hey, I like you, or we've talked a few times and I like your stuff. I'm gonna tell people to hire you. That's not how it worked, and that's not what I would want personally. If I started at the top of the barrel, if I was doing comics maybe a year, and then I was working, not even working at Marvel or DC, but I was working on a book that was selling really well or was really popular. It's the journey, man. It's not the destination, and you'd miss out. The coolest people I have met are through comics, not just other not just professionals, but other indie comic creators, podcasters, reviewers. I've made freaking lifelong friends through this, and it's a connection that just most people wouldn't get, because we've all got this love for something and the want to do it, when most people in their everyday lives are like, yeah, I don't care. But we connect on, we know that person wants it just as bad as we do. And it's not oh, well, I'm competing against that person. It's when something good happens for one of those people, I am generally happy. My friend Josh Trujillo, he has had an Adventure Time graphic novel come out at Boom, and he's got another one, I think it's solicited for August. And I was so happy when I found that out. I was like, Josh, I'm like, you deserve this, man. I'm like, enjoy it. And I read it when it came out. It was awesome. And it was a good feeling for me to be like, hard work does pay off. I mean, I'm like, he's one of the good examples. I'm like, he'd been doing, self-published comics and, anthology stuff. And then here he is doing Adventure Time, freaking Adventure Time. Like, who doesn't love Adventure Time?
I know. It's awesome. Love to see the girlfriend kind of peeking in the corner there. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah, I forgot she was here. Just kidding.
Hi.
She's actually chained up. The relationship isn't going so well, so I'm hoping for Stockholm syndrome. So I'm gonna let her wander around in a few weeks, but she'll still be supervised, just to make sure that she comes back. And then once we get to that point, then I can let her, do what she wants, but she's loyal to me.
So a la Kathy Bates, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it puts the lotion on the skin.
Different movie, although that would be just as awkward. You talk about, and I agree with you on the people expect jobs to be handed to them, and there are very few nowadays that want to work for it. I mean, different generations and all that other stuff aside, those that come on the show, hard work pays off, and that's the main thing. And then they're passionate about what they do. You're passionate about what you do. When you look at what you've accomplished with the Kickstarter, with the books, with amazing collaborations and people you've met throughout the years, do you consider well, from a professional standpoint, I think you consider yourself successful in that regard, but do you consider yourself personally successful?
I do. It's funny because I set my expectations super high. Um, when I was in high school, my goal was to have something published by Image, Dark Horse, Marvel, or DC by the time I turned 20. Now I'm 21. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I look back and I'm like, wow. It's funny because so many people will be like, in just like, you got a book out. I'm like, yeah. They go, that's further than a lot of people get.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got just a box that's got everything. I've had a story and it's over there. And if I'm ever in a crappy mood or if I'm feeling down, I flip through it and it's just a good feeling that you're like, I did this. I mean, this is one of those things where if I never make a living doing comics, that's okay. I'm not going to stop making them. I can tell you that, because it gives me one of the best damn feelings in the world. And especially the cool thing is,
sorry, hold up. Actually, Austin, keep talking. I got to take this, but
okay.
Keep going.
So I'll keep talking then. It gives me one of the best feelings that I can have. You know, you look, the hard work is in something tangible, and even when it's digital, it feels awesome. But the second you get something prints in hand, like, just, it's like, oh, it's great. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to talk about now, so I'm gonna plug a couple things that I'm working on right now. A comic for a band that's going to be released with their album. I don't know if I can talk about that any more than that already. We got that. I've got this book called The Headless Hitman that's being drawn right now with Dom Black. You can check out all my stuff at www.hamblin, HAMBLIN, comics.com, or facebook.com/Austin Allen Hamblin. So it's just me here, kind of scared, kind of not scared, kind of excited. I like tacos. Professional wrestling fan. Now let's talk about Scott for a little bit. Scott Twells, who draws it. I'm not giving him enough credit. That man loves comics just as much as I do. He lives in the UK, and he's a big 2000 AD fan. And we Skype and video chat and stuff. And they moved recently, like a couple months ago. And so 2000 AD does a weekly magazine and the monthly magazine. And he's been getting all of them for, like, I don't know, I think it's like 2 or 3 years. No, it's a lot of them. He won't get rid of any of them. And his wife, when I talked to him after they moved, she was so frustrated at how annoying it was to move all those. I mean, because you can imagine when moving that books are probably the most annoying thing to move, and he's got tons of just that. Dude loves Judge Dredd. Oh man, he loves Judge Dredd. And it's kind of cool that me and him had the same taste in comics. He's a big Garth Ennis fan and Mark Millar, which are two of my favorites. Some of my other favorite writers, I really like Warren Ellis, Robert Kirkman, Todd McFarlane. As far as classics go, Jack Kirby. I love Chris Hardwick. Hey, turn. He's back.
Sorry about that. It's just, timing is never great for me.
Okay. I was incoherently rambling on about things.
Yeah, I'm used to that. Let's. I'll ask 3 more questions, and
Okay.
then I gotta get going because we gotta pick up my dad. So, no, I'm not trying to cut you short. But anyhow, right. So you answered the success question, or you answered the personal success question. Good. I liked what I heard. Not sure what you rambled on about, but it'll be interesting to hear. So, and the final two questions I have are, how do you deal with failure?
You have to take it with a grain of salt, and you can use it as motivation. I have a kind of a little binder that's kind of a scrapbook of like comic stuff I've done. Like it's got some newspaper articles I was in local and stuff. But in the back, I have rejection letters from Oni Press, from Images Shadowline, and I just because a publisher doesn't want something doesn't mean it's not good. It could just mean it's not the right fit, and politics play a part of it. And the most important thing for me is just I try to make the things that I want to exist, and just because it doesn't get picked up doesn't mean I can't make it exist still. So I guess it's kind of hard for me to say how I deal with failure, because as long as I just keep going and I keep getting comics made, I guess I don't see any failing in that.
Good. I like that. That's a good answer. Everyone has one person that kind of inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you?
And I'm gonna go for comics. It's gonna be Phil Hester. I met him at a very young age, and for those people who don't know who he is, right now he's doing Mythic at Image. He's worked on Green Arrow. He's been everywhere. He's a 30-year vet. Swamp Thing. Eisner nominated for the Wretch. Now the cool thing about him is I eventually just got on a first name basis with him because I was going to all the. He's from Iowa, so all the signings I'd go to, store signings, all the conventions I go to, he'd be at. And then eventually it was he knew who I was, and then I asked him to help me out. And I got my first book of self-published shorts out, and we went for dinner, and he's like, bring him up printed out on copy paper. He brought a Sharpie, and he went over them with me. He's like, here's what you did good, here's what you did wrong, here's what you need to improve on. Now, the cool thing is I got more versed in all the things he's done. The dude has done some weird comics. I love them. But they are stuff that, how do you pitch this? This probably won't sell. He wants to make them exist. He loves comics. There's a lot of comic people that I talk to, and I'd be like, oh, you reading anything? You reading any comics right now? Or what are your favorite things you're reading right now? And they're like, oh, I kind of don't feel like reading comics in my free time. But then I talk to him, and he's like, I'm reading this, this, and this, and this, and this. I'm not as caught up as I'd like to be. And that's what he says every time. And I'll meet up with him at a comic book shop, and he'll pick up $200 worth of stuff, and he's like, yeah, you should have seen what I picked up last week. And I'm like, you're spending $200 this week, and you were here last week too? He's got the same passion as me, and he kind of has the same upbringing as me as far as he's from rural Iowa. He knows what it's like to be that one person that's like comics in where everybody else are, agriculture, sports, or kind of the weird outsider kid. And he's always been super supportive, and I call him my comics dad.
Nice. It's good to have a mentor like that, and you've learned from it. You're successful. You've done wonderful things, and you're only 21. You've got years to go, man. I mean, you're going to be at those signings. You're going to be at those comic book stores, and you're going to be doing the same thing Phil was doing for you, and going from there. So you've got to be kidding me. This better be one of those freaking automated tile things, or else I'm going to flip. Hang on. Hello. I'm in the middle of a call. Okay, I'm good. Thank you, though. Call me some other time.
I'm entertaining people.
I know, because you're focused on you. We were focused on you. Really, Cineplex, the movie thing, just decides to call me in the middle of a podcast. Like, how I love the place, but give me a break, guys. I'm focused on Austin here. Anyhow, yes. Basically, I was saying you'll be doing the same thing Phil was doing for the next generation as
I
well
hope so.
too. You will. I believe that for sure. The younger generation are going to look at your work and they're going to become inspired by what you do, as you were inspired by Phil, as you were inspired by other people that you mentioned in the show. How can they inspire the next generation?
By making the comics that you want to tell. And I know that sounds so stupid and so simple and like the easiest thing in the world, but it's easy to jump on a bandwagon of, oh, this is super popular right now. If I do this, maybe more people will see it or whatever. If you make, and this is kind of from Neil Gaiman, he was always like, if you make the stories that you want to make, if you don't get paid for them, if they don't get read by a lot of people, you still got to make the story that you wanted to make.
Love it. Is there anything else that I haven't brought up? Well, I guess it'd be nice of you to tell them a website and social media and other stuff they can reach you at or reach Punk and Rock at, and everything along that line too.
Okay. Yeah. So website is hamblincomics.com. So HAMBLIN comics. And that's got everything you'll need. I do video blogs, blog posts, stuff like that. And then the best way to get a hold of me is through my author page on Facebook, which is just facebook.com/Austin Allen Hamblin. And all that information is also on my website, as well as the Kickstarter information is on the main page of my website.
Geez, simple, easy, and it's amazing what social media can tie things together with.
It's super nice.
It really is. Well, Austin, hopefully you didn't feel like I'm cutting this short. I apologize, first off. But I hate to say, but that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking, where we talked with, of course, the amazing writer, Austin Hamblin, of course, from The Adventures of Punk and Rock, which you should be able to find, of course, on his website, as well as online, as well as everywhere else you can possibly find his work. But check out his check out his Kickstarter. Toss him a few more bucks and get some amazing amazing comics drawn by an amazing person and written by another amazing talent as well too. So yeah, as Austin is freaking out on his side of the screen.
I was having a seizure. You didn't call help. I died.
I'm used to it. But
you die?
Anyhow, well, you have the girlfriend to help you out. So as I see a carcass being drawn off screen, so finishing up then, of course, like I said, check out his social media. It'll be on the Two Geeks Talking website as well, tgtmedia.com. You can find me, of course, at Twitter, at Kurt Sasso, K-U-R-T. If you spell it with the say, you're dead to me. And, of course, you can find me on facebook.com/Two Geeks Talking and a variety of other things you can find on my social media page. You like that one, huh?
That was hilarious.
Yeah. Finally, just to let everyone know, because this is the second episode, we're going to have Chris Walsh, author, novelist of The Gold and... he's going to kill me. The Gold and Steel Saga, with his first book, As Fierce as Steel, 700-page novel. He's coming back on the show because I had technical issues with Skype and other stuff last week. He's going to come back next week. We're going to do the same interview, but we're going to have more fun, and technology won't take a crap on me like it did last time. Other than that, thank you everyone for listening and watching. There is also a new section on the Two Geeks Talking TGT Media website, professional services. Because I graduated, I have to do, make a living. So I am offering consulting in podcasting. I'm offering video production work, video editing work, as well as other services in terms of making commercials, music videos, and a variety of other things. You can see some of my samples, of course, on tgtmedia.com/services. Take a look at what I have to offer. Fill out the form on the bottom of that page if you want to utilize what I can offer. Other than that, thank you everyone for listening and watching. Tune in next week for another great interview. Thank you again, Austin, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your week and more books to be sold at other conventions too.
Thanks, buddy. Woo!
And we're off. Thank you so much, everyone.